Hello, welcome to the Nova Show, Real Estate Records. I'm your host, Nick Park, today, and excited to introduce a top 500 realtor in Utah, Zack Baker. He's got an AB, MRP, and veteran certification. Zack's a true advocate for service members and veterans, helping them find homes they deserve. His commitment to community, clients, and excellence has made him a standout in the industry. So get ready for Zack's mission-driven approach and how he's making a real impact in the Utah real estate industry. So we're happy to have Zack here. Here he is. There's Zack. So this is, kind of what we talk about here is like real estate journeys and just kind of stuff you've learned along the way in real estate and all the things that you've done. And so kind of what I'd start with was your journey in real estate, where you started, kind of even before, like things you were doing before you even got into real estate, and then kind of how you got into it, things that you're doing from there. So why don't you go ahead and start just from the very beginning, maybe not your first job, kind of things that kind of led you into real
Rainbow
estate.
Snow.
Yeah.
Rainbow
Snow? I remember those.
Yeah.
They would bring those back around. Those are cool.
They're the best.
Yeah.
The amount of sugar I ingested that summer
Oh, I'm sure.
was not good. It was not good. Yeah. So
Those are the blue ones that were the circular?
Yeah, it's that big circle.
Yeah.
They looked like
Those are vintage. I like those.
They all looked like crap while I was there. It was just terrible. But it was a good time. It was
awesome.
My journey into real estate was, I guess, kind of random is maybe a way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was working at Discount Tire. Started there when I was 16, just in high school. Did that throughout high school. Great company. Loved it. Stuck around, and as soon as I graduated, enlisted in the Army Reserve. And the training I was in took me away for about a year and a half, a little over a year and a half. 100% thought I was going to do 20 years in the military, go out to do the whole thing. So I get home from all my training, and my wife, currently was going through nursing school at the time, and got home, went back to Discount Tire, was doing school up at Weaver State, playing lacrosse up there, and was in their ROTC program. Because like I said, I was for sure thinking I was going to do 20 years in the military.
Yeah.
Going through that, and then just kind of realized, like, one, I'm terrible at school. It's just not my gig.
Yeah.
You go from that into, once you get into kind of the back end of the military and the officers and that stuff, it was just like, this is not what I want to do.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. So I stopped doing that, pulled out of school to just push my wife through nursing school.
So how long were you doing that with
in ROTC it was 2 years there.
2 years.
Up at school, yeah. I got a 3/4 done degree there at the moment.
Okay.
I might go back and finish. I probably won't. But did that, pushed my wife through nursing school, kind of got her finished up, and I was still at Discount Tire, Army Reserve. So I was in there 1 weekend a month, and then you're about 2 weeks or a month out of the year is what they pitch to you, right? Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Doing that, just getting her through school, and then she was finishing up. It was like, all right, like I'm not finishing school. Like I don't want to. Like what's next, right? Because I knew Discount Tire was not going to be my forever. Looked at it and was just like, I don't know, real estate sounds kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
What's that take to get into it? And, Google searched it and landed on one of the local schools that does like an online course here, and told my wife, I was like, thinking about this, like when you're done with nursing school, like I'm gonna give it a shot, give it a jump. Yeah. So she wrapped up with that and hopped in, finishing up so I was in the Army Reserve. I was on a 6-year. It was an 8-year total contract, but you're actively drilling for 2 years. You're actually working for them for 6 years. Was finishing that contract up and was like, all right, it's time. Mm-hmm. Here we go. Got my license. Ended up meeting, I should have met him before. He lived around the corner, Chad Wagstaff. Yeah. Chad.
Yeah.
So Amanda, his wife, and my wife, Kaylee, were, good friends. And she was like, oh my gosh, what's Zack doing now? He's getting his real estate license.
Yeah.
She was like, oh my gosh, he should talk to Chad, because, he runs a team and they're always looking for awesome agents. I was like, so that's how I got linked up with Chad and then Dave Parker in the interim there.
And that's when we met.
Because you were in another title company at the time. You were doing escrow at the time.
I was marketing at the time. Yeah. I think we met at the first lunch we did was just the Red Robin up the road.
Oh, maybe it was.
For lunch. Yeah, that's the first thing I was thinking. I was just trying to remember kind of our history. We did lunch there, and then rest is history. I mean, as far as
that was almost 8 years ago.
Was that 8 years ago?
Almost 8 years ago.
It's amazing how time.
Yeah, it'll be my. I'm in my 7th. Yeah, 8th year will be July.
Okay.
Middle of July.
Okay. So you're getting your start with real estate. Gone through military, you've done discount tire, so now you're starting kind of brand new, fresh, starting with everything. What are some of the things that stick out to you during that time when you were just starting?
I was clueless, right? Like so clueless. When I got my license, call it luck, I guess. So one of my wife's good friends she was in nursing school with was like getting married, and her husband was a few years older and was like, I don't want to rent. We're buying a house. We're doing it. So before I even had super key access to get into a house, I had this buyer and it was ready to rock and roll. Stroke of luck, right? How could it not have happened? The tricky part, the funny part of this was I was doing my annual tour. It was just a home base. That 2 weeks out of the summer that you work, I was doing that while I was transitioning into this career. So I'm on orders up at Fort Douglas above the year, that little spot up there with all the, if you've seen all those trucks up there. Mm-hmm. So I was in charge of all those trucks. I was the brigade parts sergeant. So ordering parts, logistics, all that. And working, 8 to 6, right? Monday through Friday. Or no, it was just 14 days straight through there. And now I've got this buyer that's like, I've got to go. And I'm like, I don't have time to run to the board to get key access. So I'm asking Chad and Dave, help me out. How the heck do I open a door? How do I get the key? I didn't even know what the key box was. I had no clue what a super key box was. And they're like, oh, you got to get access. And I was like, that's great. Yeah. Where? How? Clueless. So green. And so that worked out great. Get that one closed and was moving along. That first year, I would say even 2 years. Those first 2 years, you got so much to learn. Mm-hmm. And this school doesn't teach you a lot of it, right? It's kind of there's a lot of nuanced things you got to learn how to do, or you can
learn how the contracts are written and negotiating.
Right. Right. And so I think the biggest takeaway for me in that time was I know for a fact, I would not be in this business still if I didn't have the mentors and coaches that I had. I.e. Chad Wagstaff, Dave Parker. Yeah. Those are the two easy ones that come to mind. Without that mentorship and support and coaching, there's no chance I'm here.
Well, and yours is a specific information there on just you, but this goes, for you, but they've mentored hundreds of agents all over the valley, and so many people can, tie themselves back to them.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's always good to have them as a backup, but also know that they're still in the industry,
100%.
Still Titans doing things. Yeah. Making it happen. So they're awesome.
I talked to Chad today. I talk to Chad all the time still. He's one of my best friends. Yeah. Same with Dave. They're awesome. So that's the biggest thing, especially if you're just getting into the business, is making sure you have good coaches, good mentors, and you're in that environment to help kind of foster that growth.
Yeah. One of the things we always tell new agents as well, and we're talking about you as a new agent, is build your team.
Yeah.
You are the face of your clients, right? So your clients, they don't care who the title company is. They don't care who the mortgage company is, lender, appraiser, inspector, anything like that. Everything comes back to you.
Correct.
Correct. So the team that you're building, you want to make sure that it's a good team you trust, it's going to get the work done. We're here to help you, help behind the scenes on everything, but you're the face of it, right? You're the rock star of the show,
right.
So everything comes back to you, but your clients you want to take care of them.
Right. And I'm sure you've seen it too, or if you have a lender, whatever, right? You've seen these clients that have something go wrong in a deal. Mm-hmm. There's a hiccup, a road bump, and every deal has them. But when there's the more extreme ones, right? Every time you're the face of it, and it kind of gets automatically pushed onto you as the agent. Mm-hmm. So I 100% agree. You got to have that good team around you.
Yeah. Well, good. So you had all that start, and then you eventually become a top 500 realtor.
Yeah.
So when did you hit top 5? Yeah. When did you get that?
So the last probably 4 years, I would say. So 2024, 25, or 2024, excuse me, is when the first time that I hit it was this last year.
Okay.
love my clients for it, right? Of course, I wouldn't be here without them.
Yeah.
And so last year was the best year that I've had in a long time. I mean, I guess ever. Like, should I say, yeah, long time, ever. Hit it this in 2024, which was awesome. Finally hit it. I feel like the 3 or 4 years before that, of course, you don't get the email, you don't get the letter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Digging through numbers, and I'm like, how close was I, right? Like, I think I was within, minimal amounts those few years before. Mm-hmm. And so to finally get it was awesome.
Yeah.
Felt good.
That's great. So what do you think sets you apart in this kind of, it's competitive, right? Utah's growing, it's not going to get any smaller. And I think during COVID, we saw a lot of influx of agents and then some went away, but we're still seeing a ton of people that have got their real estate license. So what would you say sets you apart in such a competitive market?
Big thing for me is just kind of the foundations of my business.
Okay.
And how that culture that I brought into my business of how I operate. Mm-hmm. I'll be your best friend forever, right? I love people. I want to make sure everyone, in a way, right? Everyone likes me because people want to work with who they like. Mm-hmm. They want to. That's just it. And so, between communication is a big part of it. That pinnacle, right? I want to make sure my clients are updated. I want to make sure title, the lenders, everyone is up to date with everything they need. So communication is a big one. Hard work, right? That's just it. I've seen it time and time again too. Agents that come into the business and they're like, I'm going to post on social media one time and tell everyone I'm an agent that way. And I'm going to have just
the deals are going to fly.
The deals are going to fly.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Right. So it takes a lot of legwork. And I'm not afraid of hard work. Mm-hmm. That's just it. And so, to that tune of when I was on that team with Dave and Chad, there's days you're making 100 plus phone calls, right? Like you're just grinding leads. And knocking doors is another popular one people are doing too. Knocking doors, you're calling for sale by owners, expireds, FSBOs, whatever it is. It's a grind. So communication, hard work, and then probably the biggest one is going to be just like working with integrity, right? Because like if you got to have a hard conversation, have a hard conversation, and you're going to do that in this business a lot.
Yeah.
Whether it's hey, we got everything back, and you're not able to buy a home for whatever reason, or XYZ. There's a ton of different examples we can throw, right? Yeah. Stuff falls through, and just like shooting people straight about it. Mm-hmm. That's a huge kind of a component of my business at its core. And then I throw a fourth one in there too, I guess, that it's also just like, I'm going to get the deal closed. Mm-hmm. That's just it. We got to get creative. I've had to go out and scrape paint for people, right? Yeah. With different VA, FHA, sweat equity, right? Where it's like whatever the situation is, if the seller doesn't want to do it, and scraping paint and throwing some extra new paint on there is going to cost you what, like $20, $25? Like, just go do it. Yeah. Like it'll take you an hour and $25. Like, if it gets your client the home they love, and for whatever reason the seller can't do that, or the listing agent doesn't want to help out, like who cares? Like go knock it out. Just get it done. Yeah. I had to put a railing in for someone a few months ago, like banister vinyl railing on the outside of the basement walkout. Ask me how many times I've used concrete anchors ever in my life before that.
Figure it out.
YouTube University, baby.
YouTube University.
That's just it. It got it done, and it helps clients out, takes some stress off their plate, which ultimately is a big reason they hire you.
Yeah. So just a side note. So you talk about grinding and like having to like make all those phone calls and everything all day. What are some of the things that you would say helps motivate you to keep that going? Because I know there's a lot of people out there that say that's the little stuff that you're doing behind the scenes, the phone calls, the stuff. Yeah. That's not the like magical part. That's not what people really want to see, but it's the stuff that every agent's doing every single day. So
not the sexy part.
It's not the sexy part. So what's the things that like you're like, how do you stay motivated to keep making those phone calls and going to knock on more doors or something?
It comes down to clarity and where you want to go, right? What do you want out of the business? You'll get whatever you put in. In anything in life, right? To that extent. So for like real estate, if you want to do 30 deals a year, it boils down to how many people are you talking to every single day, right? Like if you're closing 30 deals a year, what does your life look like at that point? Having that clear vision and like, this is what I want. This is how many deals or, amount of volume or money I need to make. those things, if you have that in place and you have a clear vision of where you want to go and who you need to be for that to happen, then yeah, it makes complete sense, and it's no big deal to sit down and call.
So it's like a numbers game for you. It's like if I make 75 calls a day, I know that I'm going to at least get 3 or 4 appointments from it, and then from those appointments, I'm going to be able to get 1 or 2 closings a month.
Right, exactly. So the team I'm on now, in the situation I'm in, we've got a software that does all that. We track all of our numbers. Because what you measure, you can manage. So if you don't know how many contacts a day you're making, how many phone calls a day you're making, how many appointments you set this week, this month, this year, blah, 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 right? We can dial that in to where it goes, okay, I made 30 contacts today and I'm set, say, 3 appointments, right? That's a great return. If you're making 30 contacts and you get 3 appointments,
right,
you're an all-star. That's a killer.
Yeah.
That's not reality, right? So I got it boiled down in this dashboard to say, and I got to double check the number because I forget on this. I get something like I've got to meet 3 people in order to get 1 closing.
Okay.
Is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Something to that extent. That could be a little bit off.
Yeah.
But that's just it. Is I know exactly. I look at my dashboard. I know my numbers, and I can say, oh, I need to meet. I want 5 closings this month. How many people do I need to meet? And I can reverse engineer it.
And just go from there.
Right.
That's
exactly.
Smart. That's great. Okay. Moving on a little bit. So you've got military relocation certification, veteran certifications. What do those mean? Because a lot of agents that are out there don't hold those certifications, right? So agents, that's a more niche, I think, kind of genre that you've got for what you're prospecting towards and everything as well. So what does that mean? What do those certifications mean? And how do they, because I've closed stuff with you before too. So closing with a lot of the veterans, you've got a special relationship with them that no other agent can hit. So kind of talk about how that works for you.
Totally. So that's obviously a big part of my business is VA, veterans, things like that. Just being in that community for the last 8 years, doing that stint in the Army Reserves. Closed multiple deals. I mean, one yesterday actually for an old buddy of mine that we worked together in the same platoon up there. And he's building out in Eagle Mountain, and so he just closed on that lot yesterday, right? So there's some nuance to the VA loan specifically, and just things you can do and can't do. For me, I never deployed, so for better or for worse, right? You ask anyone that's they're gonna be mad about it. Either they're bummed, right? I'm in that same boat where it's like, man, like that's what I want to do, right? Like that's what you're pumped up to go do is deploy, and right, exactly. Never got the opportunity, tried my hardest, didn't work out. So because of that, and then I got out after that initial contract. I look at it as a way of giving back to the community a little bit of how I can maybe help out, right? Just because I didn't get that opportunity to help out down range or deploy, whatever you want to call it. Now I have the opportunity to help them here at home, and that's where that different classifications and really digging into the knowledge of it kind of came from. Yeah.
Is there anything that like when you work with clients like that, is there anything that like you go back and like, this is what originally inspired me to work with, veterans. It obviously goes back to your service and everything as well, but to keep working with them, is there anything that's like, this is why I do it,
I think anyone that's ever been in the military, I would even say like immediate family, like you said, you get it. There's some natural kind of camaraderie with it, right? You have a lot in common, for better or for worse again, right?
Yeah.
Because you were in the military together. And so because of that, I just click with just veterans in general, right? It's just a tight knit community.
Yeah.
And so it's again, comes back to, working with people that you want to work with, and they want to work with people they like. And so it's an easy connection for me in that realm, because it's just that easy friendship out of the gates. I understand what they're talking about when sometimes there's lenders that aren't super sure what the different, maybe forms are, DD-214, or the different terms. There's so much lingo involved in the military too. So it's one where for the relocation certification, right, if they're ETSing, so they're moving from one base to a new base without new orders.
So what they mean by ETS?
ETS is, and it's funny you say that because now I can't remember.
No, but the lingo.
The transfer service. Yeah. So they're essentially just they got new orders. So say they went from for the Air Force, they go from Fort Travis to now they're up here at Hill Air Force Base, right? So it's just their new orders. They're just moving again.
Right.
So when you get in contact with these people, you need to know, when's their ETS date, who's moving all the stuff, are they using their private stuff to move it, or are you using military movers? Buckle up if you are, because something breaks every time, right?
Yeah.
So just knowing those little things and how to help those situations, because that truck's going to show up, and I can promise you something's going to be broken. And then it's easy to step in and how can I help these people remedy that situation?
Right.
Not that I have to, but it just adds an extra layer of service to your business.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of it.
Yeah. So are there any specific, can you think of anything? I know I'm kind of putting me on the spot here, but
sure.
Is anything that working with a veteran that you're like, oh my gosh, this kind of stands out as having to work with a veteran that was a challenge that we overcame and that we ended up making the deal happen?
Sure.
And it could be in any deal. I speak more to the veterans
sure.
pretty close because that's who sometimes you work with. But is there anything that was a specific challenge that you can think of? We were able to overcome this.
Oh man, let me think back. I'm trying to think. I mean, if I go with just VA loan buyers that I close, I wonder how many of those I've done.
Yeah.
I should look at that number. We're probably pushing around 50 to 70 is my guess. But one specific. Man, I don't know, because they all have their own challenges.
Yeah.
In ways, right? Especially because you get in that VA FHA appraiser situation, and that's probably where a lot of these situations come from, that I'm trying to really pinpoint a specific one. There was one. This one comes to mind. It was up in Plain City. I was a fairly new agent. I think I'd been in for 6 months in the business.
Still green, still
super, trying to figure it out, right? Some good family friends. The house that they purchased was on, the big thing that drew it to them was on 3 acres and a bunch of horses, right? Oh my gosh, this is perfect. It's a manufactured home on that piece of land.
Okay.
So we get going, and I could talk for 30 minutes about this deal because it was just a chaos from start to end. What it comes down to, though, the appraiser goes out, looks at this property, and decides the strapping system underneath the manufactured home was too old and had to be replaced.
Underneath the home.
Underneath the home.
Very easy to get to.
Yeah. Super. Yeah, you're crawling through a 2 foot by 2 foot hole. And I'm not the smallest of guys, so that was fun to get under there to get pictures to double check that the new system had been
put on. So you're in there and yourself.
It's 3 days to close, and it's we need proof that new system is hooked up correctly.
Yeah.
Listen, the seller was not about to do this. The agent was so checked out.
Yeah.
He wanted nothing to do with this deal at this point. I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to Plain City. So I drove, Cottonwood Heights where we were at, drove to Plain City. It was gotta go now. So driving up, it's the middle of winter on top of it.
So freezing.
Freezing cold in a shirt and tie. And hindsight, I probably should have just stopped at home and changed.
Yeah.
But I had to get done. Burning daylight, and I'm not about to crawl under a mobile home that I'm already mad I'm crawling underneath. But now it's going to be dark and cold. Just get there and get it done.
And who knows what's under there?
Bingo, right? So I crawled underneath it and had to take a bunch of pictures and videos to show, here's the strap point here, and this all makes sense, and have to get it over to the appraiser to okay, we're good, passed off. And then that was just the tip of the iceberg. But then got closed.
Anything under there that...
Nothing crazy.
Okay.
Nothing crazy was under the house.
That's where my mind's going. Seeing a critter under there or something.
Nothing crazy. No, we found out afterwards though that she had a couple of little goats on the property.
Okay.
It's a 3-bedroom house. One of the bedrooms, turns out, was for the goats. We didn't know that until afterwards.
Like you do, right?
Yeah, because it was cleaned out whenever we saw it. And it was whatever, it needs some work. It is what it is. We love the property. Let's do it. In hindsight, that's why there was hay and an odd smell in that bedroom.
Little things like that. So now in the next, whenever that comes up, and that's the thing. I think the point we want to try and make is all these little things that you do just prepare you for the next time. If it ever comes up again, you may never ever see that ever again. Or have to crawl under a home to take pictures again. But you do. And you've also talked about this a little bit too, because you've had teams yourself. You've worked on teams, so a lot of your experience of that you can pass along to other agents too. Right. So what are some things that you've been able to pass along to other team members or, newer agents now that they're maybe you've got someone that's 6 months in, or you kind of train them along the way too?
I think it comes down to a lot of, I guess how I operate on that is going to be kind of lead by example a little bit. So it's not like, when I have my team, we have a few agents, it's like, come in, you got to make all your phone calls. You got to be in the office every day.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm there in the office every day, making my phone calls every single morning.
Yeah.
And that was part of, to where I was at, where I came in. But that's been a big part of it, was just being led by example to begin with.
Yeah.
And then it creates that culture, right? If you walk into that office now, same thing, you're going to have that dozen agents or so from that team that are there every single day making those phone calls, and you can see the fruits of their labor.
Yeah.
So that was a big part of it. And that's just how I kind of taught a little bit more, was lead by example. And that was just it, like, I'm going to be here every day because I can't work from home. Terrible. Terrible.
Well, it's hard. There's so many distractions.
Exactly.
Kids and everything too. So it's hard. So
then I like to, be able to be around people that rub shoulders with those that are going for the same thing.
Yeah. Well, I think I think we saw this during COVID. I think a lot of times working from home, we all had to. And I think a lot of it was just like, I need to be around people. I need to make sure that because you feed off that too. And not only that, but you're also able to motivate each other.
100%.
So, okay. So, education, there's a lot of things that agents have to do with staying up on continuing education, things like that.
Yeah.
And just the current market trends too. And I know you've gotten into the lending side as well.
Correct.
So you kind of see a lot of different aspects of it as well, but how do you keep yourself educated with current market trends? What you're seeing in the real estate lending side? What are there websites that you look, articles you read? What are things that you do to keep educated?
Yeah, I think when it comes to this in general, this education part, being how do they phrase this? Being a 1 hour student every single day. So an hour a day, you're, either you're learning about the market or, do you know the next time the Feds meet? What is the plan with that? What are rates doing today? Right. So you can chunk these things up into little 10-minute increments, but every day you should be a student for 1 hour. And if you're doing that, you're probably not going to have to do your CE last minute, which
it's always in the back of your mind.
now you have your mortgage license on top, so I've got to do that every year too.
Okay.
So that's a newer thing for me, but and that's opened my eyes quite a bit too, education wise, right? Because from an agent's perspective, it's like, I'm going to put a pretty bow on this and I'm going to send it to the lender, and they got it from there.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm dealing with that on my end a little bit. Not dealing is the wrong word.
Yeah.
I get the opportunity. Get the opportunity to work on that here and there, and that's just it. So, education-wise, with lending, I forget the name of this website. Give me 1 second.
No, you're good. You're good. So while you're looking that up,
I should know this.
You're good. So how long have you had your license in mortgage too?
In the mortgage world, it's been about 1.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it in October of 2023.
Okay, October of 23. So
comes through in an email every day, and I must have just deleted them.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But that's just it. I guess kind of looping back into that. For agents, there's a lot more on YouTube's a good spot, right? There's a ton of free content in that. Whether you're trying to learn how to door knock your scripts, whatever it is, YouTube's great. BAM, I forget what their acronym is for. If you follow BAM on Instagram at all, they're pretty funny. So they do a bunch of just stupid parodies and stuff about different brokerages. But there's a lot of good education. Their website's really good too. Okay. They've got a newsletter in that comes out. BAM Agents. BAM Agents, I think is the handle on that. But look them up. They're funny. It's good. They've got a bunch of good stuff.
That's what we need more of, I think.
100%. You can't take this too seriously. Yeah. So I would say that's probably the main source. Go through YouTube. There's a ton of free content, I guess, coupled with that. So social media wise, in Instagram, Facebook, whatever. But then furthering that, dig deeper into the industry itself. What are market projections? What were the numbers last month versus this month? What's projected? And luckily with our MLS here in Utah, there's all those tools are right there too.
Right.
you can pull all those statistics in seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So 1 hour a day studying your craft.
Okay. So 1 hour a day. Do you feel like, and I know the answer to this, but I want to ask you, like, do you feel like having basically real estate and the lending side just helps you provide more information to your clients?
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely. Yeah. Just because that's what I was just saying, where you could just kind of, here's the lead, like, here's the client, let's figure it out, get them pre-approved. Well, now it's a little deeper, because now if I'm, say, the loan officer assistant, or I'm helping process that loan, I have access to that file now.
Mm-hmm.
So if the client, and there's so many middlemen sometimes about, like, you have a processor here and a loan officer assistant here, but then the title work also has their assistants and their processors and their closing agents. And you're like, I don't know who to call to ask about this question. So now it makes it easy, because now clients can just call me and say, hey, I got an email about this from the underwriter meeting XYZ. Like, what the heck does that even mean? And it's easy for me, because I can just pull the whole file up and say, oh, it's this, here's how you get it. And just adds another layer of service to your clients. So that's a big part of it. But with that, right, there's more time, there's more education. You need to know what you're doing, you know what you're saying. So you're not just like, I don't know.
So do you find, you talk about the 1 hour education each day, do you find you feel like you need to spend an hour in real estate side and an hour in lending?
I'd say total, an hour total.
Hour total.
Total, right?
No matter what you're doing.
So few agents have both their mortgage license and their real estate license, right? Let alone brokers, like whatever, right? Pretty rare. And it was an idea that was turned over to me from a good friend, George.
Okay.
That was like, you should do this. Like, why not? Like, yeah, you're right. Let's run. And so I give him credit for that, because it's been awesome for my business. It's been great. Purely from a service standpoint, education standpoint. Yeah. If nothing else.
Then you become known as like the person that like knows everything. Like, even if there's just a random question, they may not be in the market for real estate right now, or needing a refinance or something. They're like, Zack asked me that, so I can call him.
Yeah, kind of a one-stop shop almost, right?
And then maybe 4 or 5 years down the road, those are always ones you always have. Yeah, you always have them out there, but at least you want them to be asking those questions all the time.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's great. Let's see. Do you, a couple more questions here that I've got. So what's one piece of advice you give to every first-time home buyer, maybe even those that are coming from military background? Like, if you're meeting someone for the first time, maybe let's do a couple. Let's do one on the listing side. You're doing a listing presentation. You're on their home. They're selling for the first time. And then another one is a first-time home buyer. Kind of like you're meeting them for the very first time. You're just starting the process. They've rented their entire life. So let's do two of them. Let's start with the home buyer first. You're meeting a home buyer for the first time, and then we'll move to a first-time seller, I guess, at that point.
First-time buyer.
Yeah.
Piece of advice. That's tricky, because that's an easy one to give a whole.
There's a whole bunch.
There's a whole bunch. Yeah. Like, first piece of advice I'm giving them, biggest piece of advice for a first-time buyer is hire me.
Yes.
No.
First and foremost, hire Zack.
No. The big thing is going to be, it's probably not going to be your forever home.
Okay. That's always good, because I think a lot of people think that they've got to go for that.
Correct.
And
especially we look at affordability in Utah specifically, just let alone the whole country, right? We look at Utah specifically. We're one of the most expensive markets in the country.
Yeah.
Like, we're not on the cheap end, right?
Especially in our major counties here.
Correct. Yeah, just through the Wasatch Front here. Generally, we're not going to be the cheapest option, right? So then it becomes, okay, you've got this young family who wants to get into their own place, start building equity and wealth. Do they even know that, say, the tax write-offs that you can write off your mortgage, your interest on your mortgage, right, on your taxes every year? Do they know that? Probably not. None of them ever do. But the big part is, get in the game where you can. So the home fits your needs. Maybe it's not in the exact location you want to be. It doesn't have the second or third car garage you want. It's not going to be your forever home. It's a stepping stone to the future.
To the future.
Yeah.
That's great advice. Because I think about my kids as well, right?
Sure.
I've got a 14 and almost 12-year-old.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what the future's going to look like for them for buying a home. I know what it is right now, but they're still probably 10 years away before they're going to buy their first home, And so what's that going to look like? And so obviously that's going to be the first thing. And that's what I think kind of what our generation's same thing was like, we're not going to buy a home that's going to be a forever home, but eventually I think we're in our home that we're going to be in forever now. It eventually gets that, but we had to live in 4 or 5 houses before we got to that point.
Right.
So, okay. So we talked about first time home buyer, flip it a little bit more on a seller side. So if you're meeting with someone that's selling a home for the first time, they've kind of gone through the first time home buyer process.
Sure.
Maybe they haven't sold a home. What are some things that you tell a first time home seller
I like it.
to kind of go through too, because there are some challenges that come up even with that too.
Absolutely. So, and this could even bounce between, I guess, market to market, right? 2021, like there's no such thing as paying closing costs for your buyer.
Right. It changes with market.
Yeah. Their buyers are bending over backwards for you, where right now it's definitely a little more buyer friendly. There's still some of those onesie-twosies out there. Yeah. I ran into a couple the last couple of weeks that are multiple offers. You're playing that game again. Yeah.
But we're seeing that almost every deal has seller pay closing costs on almost every transaction.
Almost everything is going to have something. Right. Exactly. There's few instances that don't, right? Leave some room for error. But I think making sure that seller, piece of advice I give them, narrow down, make sure that they've got clear expectations of what the market looks like as a seller.
Okay.
That's the big part, along with 2 parts, I guess. So make sure they understand, here's likely what will happen. My goal is for that to not to happen. Right. Of course. I want to make sure they're not paying closing costs. They're getting top dollar. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes that doesn't. Right. Depends on, there's a whole bunch of things we can get into that determine that. But anyways, that second one, I want to say too, that second one is going to be make sure they know like their motivation. What is their why for moving?
Yeah.
Right. Because it's a stressful process, from my personal experience last year selling a home, and that was the first time we had like listed a home that we lived in.
Yeah.
Because the other one we had moved out, we had some tenants in there for a while, and they beat the dog crap out of it.
And you just like, let's get rid of it.
Yeah. Had a company come in that offered way too much in 2021. And I was like, I'd be stupid not to take this. So have at it.
Yeah, go for it.
Have
You're
fun.
welcome.
Yeah, those dogs that my tenants weren't supposed to have beat the crap out of it. So you got it. But no, so living in that home, it's stressful, it's hectic. Showings are annoying.
Yep.
Right?
Especially you got kids.
You got kids. Yeah. At the time our kids were 2 and 4.
Yeah.
Right? Almost 2 and 4, like chaos.
Keep it clean all the time.
You can't keep it clean all the time. My wife was working night shifts, and so it was like, you're coming home from work at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, but hey, we have a showing at noon. Like, sorry about it. Yeah. It is what it is. So giving them that expectation and that rundown, and I think it comes down to one of those kind of core values of my business we were talking about is be honest. Like, it can be fun. Sometimes it's not. Right?
Set those expectations.
Yeah. Understand what's going to happen, how it's going to happen. And that would be it.
Yeah. Okay. So what's next for you from here on out? So like, you just made top 500 this year. So what are your goals next year, 5, 10 years from now?
Sure. So I recently made kind of a drastic change in my business. So I no longer own, operate a team.
Okay.
Offloaded that. I'm not doing mortgages as much. I'm still involved in a handful. And I'm still on that side, but more on that loan officer assistant side and trying to run a loan myself. So that was a big change, just to simplify things. Because what I realized is I really want to focus on what I'm really good at. And what I'm really good at is selling real estate and taking care of my clients. So this, where I kind of realigned is the word I would use.
Okay.
It gives me that opportunity. So this year, my goal is 50 deals.
50 deals.
50 deals.
Would that be the most you've ever done?
By like almost 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
but like you said, you're matching a team anymore. Yeah. You're dealing just strictly in real estate. Correct. So it's a very real possibility.
Yeah, I have the support and the structure around me and some coaching that is going to put me there. Yeah. So this year's 50. Okay. Next year might be 60. I don't know. Right. Yeah, we'll come with what it is. But in the next, 5, 10 years, never lose that top 500. We're going to stay in that. Okay. And do no less than 30 deals a year. Okay. If I can do that, I'll be okay.
Yeah. That is a great goal.
I can contribute where I want. I can help people out. My family will have the life that they deserve.
Yeah.
And we can go to Disneyland.
I was going to say, you're a big Disneyland family.
Go to Disneyland 15 times a year. It won't matter.
If you follow Zack on there, you'll always, and then just randomly, like on social media, also, I won't even know it. All of a sudden, Zack's in Disneyland.
You got that itch, you got to scratch it.
Yeah. Right now, we're only going about once a year, but so I think someday we're going to be there at the same time.
We have to. Well, I ended up there with Dave one time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Dave was there with, I think both of his kids. Yeah. I don't know why
he wanted there to. And I wasn't there. So.
Yeah. I don't know why he wanted to, but he hung out with me and my kids and my wife for a day. And I probably made him realize, like, man, I'm so glad I don't have toddlers anymore.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, that's the other thing, too, is that the payouts, like you talk about your why. Mm-hmm. You know, like, it's important to you, it's important to your family. Those are the things that, like, you know, we travel as well, my family. So these are the things that's like, this is why we work, you know, like, we love what we do. We love the people that we work with and everything. But in the end of the day, we're trying to do stuff that whatever your why is, right?
Correct.
If it's going to Disneyland, if it's going on trips, if it's vacationing, if it's buying things, or, you know, the things, you got to find your why and what gives you that motivation.
Right. You know? Yeah. You're a single person and you're getting into real estate and your goal is to make $250,000 a year so that you can buy a brand new car and travel every other month to some random country. Like, hell yeah, do it. If that's what you want, let's go.
Yeah, find your why though.
Right.
Cool. Well, anything else that you think we should know is like a master of real estate, inductee? We're going to put you in the Hall of Fame here.
Stop that. Don't do that. No. Here's what the people need to know. When will we see Nick Park on the base anytime soon?
Nick Park on the base. It's still in my basement.
I know it is.
It's still hanging on the wall, but it's been a while. So Zack and I, we connected on music, Chili Peppers, first of all. You got your Chili Peppers tattoo right there. Yeah, I always remember that. So
I've had so many people ask me if I'm diabetic.
Oh, from that? You show the cameras real quick, you can see it.
Just a really poorly done.
Yeah, that's the Chili Pepper slogan there. But he's got lots of them. You've seen his sleeve there. It's really cool looking. So I admire it. But when we first connected, I think it was always on 2000s pop punk music.
Probably. Yeah.
That's where we connected on a lot of it. So
we're going to brand new.
Brand new. Oh, I actually was going to ask you about it. We'll just put it out there. I'm looking into tickets, but I know it's a hot topic right now.
Yeah, it's touchy, right?
Yeah. But
to separate the artist from the art, that's a tough draw.
I re-listened to all of it. I was driving down to St. George last week, and I listened to all their discography.
That's so good.
Yeah, it's great.
We actually fly home. I'm taking my kids and my wife on a vacation, and we fly home on the 7th when they're in town.
Okay.
And we have to fly back from Miami, and there's not a lot of good flights coming home from there. And so it's do I want to fork out the money to get here before 6 p.m. on the 7th? Probably not. Yeah. I'm probably not going to go. Yeah. If I go, it'd probably be by myself. So if I have to I'll give you a call. So. Deal. Well, Zack, thanks for coming. I appreciate having you, and your insight's great. And you've got obviously a lot of great accolades and everything too. And we hope we're going to watch you build and grow and do all you do. So we're grateful to have you. So thanks for coming. We'll do a little of that and do the right buttons. We got to put the actual things on there. So so thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks, Dave. Yep. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please rate us, like us, and share this podcast with our real estate community. The Nova Show Real Estate Record, sharing raw stories of real estate, failures, lessons, wins, and successes. This is all from Novation Title, bringing a different experience into your world so that we can all uplift each other. Until next time.